Hey everybody, welcome to Tip of the Spear. This week we have a special guest with us. We're going to have Pastor Tom Hughes with us this week to talk about what's going on in our country and around the world, about the warping of the minds of our children. Things are happening at an exponential rate that is hard to keep up with things. And it seems like that they're not content with just getting their message out, but they're wanting to attack our children and warp their minds. And I think this is part of the end times, obviously. I think this is part of the great apostasy. I think this is part of Satan manipulating people's way of thinking, obviously to think in anti-biblical ways, anti-Christ ways. And things have developed with kids. You know about the grooming of kids in the schools towards the LGBT agenda. And now you know about the grooming of children towards the trans movement. And you heard all about that, and we're fighting that. And now we're dealing with teachers, administrators, leftists, the media, saying that it's okay to identify as a furry or an animal. And I know this sounds crazy, guys, but we have to get our heads wrapped around this and figure out what's really going on, what's the target, because it sounds, well, these are just kids trying to pretend they're animals. Hey, no. There's something way different than this, especially when you have the administrators and the teachers allowing this. Furthermore, let me make another point. This goes beyond just simple the furries in school, and it goes to identity. And then we're going to talk with Tom about what's going on in our colleges, especially with the anti-Semitism we see, because there's an intentional targeting of our kids. So that's kind of what we want to focus in on. So please welcome Tom to our broadcast. We're going to bring him in and talk to Tom and get his take on things. Tom, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Hey, thank you, man. It's great being here with you, Pastor Brandon.
Yeah, I know you're a busy guy, so we won't take too much of your time, but I wanted to get your take on things that are happening. So here's an article. I'm going to show everybody on the screen the article from Breitbart, and it says, watch middle school kids protest staff support for furries, click. So the weird thing about this, guys, is that these middle school kids are the ones protesting against the furries. Now, if you don't know what a furry is, it's these kids pretend to be animals and they go to school in costume and they act like cats, like dogs, horses, whatever. And what ended up happening is the administration at this school in Utah was allowing this to happen. We even heard rumors where they're putting kitty litter boxes in the bathrooms. I know that sounds crazy. And yet it was the administrators fostering it, and the kids in the school protesting this. So I'm going to show you real quick before I bring on Tom, the protest by the kids themselves. Here's the video of them. Watch this.
We the people, not the animals. 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 We the people, not the animals.
So there's them. Now watch, they were interviewed, and watch what the kids said about these furries and what's happening there. Listen to this, guys.
So are they wearing a mask every day?
Yes. But every time we go, they're always just wearing a mask. But the principal finally stood up and banned those stuff. But they still wear them every day.
And they don't get in trouble. The principal doesn't make them get in trouble.
Yeah. All the principal says is just be kind, be nice, be nice. And then
What's the point of dressing up like a furry?
I don't know. They think they're so cool that they want to
get
be
a lot of
there.
attention. I think they want attention. So people can come at them and just look at them and think that they're so cool.
Okay.
Also,
Are you guys going to be in trouble for walking out of school today?
no, maybe. We might. If we go back on school grounds, we will get in trouble.
Hopefully not. We're standing for our rights. We're standing for what the furries are wrong. This is wrong. They should not be doing
Do your parents know you guys are out here?
Yes.
Okay.
They attack us. If they bite us and we just kick them, we get in trouble. They attack us.
They attack us and we get in trouble.
And how else do they attack you guys?
They either bite us, they scratch us, they bark
pounce
at us.
on us. They pounce on us.
And then they run on all fours and pounce on people.
Why are they spraying you with Febreze?
Just because they're jerks.
Because we apparently have
And they
rabies.
and there's a rumor that they've been putting litter boxes in the girls' bathroom. And the boys. They started putting litter boxes.
I heard that was just a rumor.
No, it's true.
Is this something you've seen?
Yeah, they're putting litter boxes in the bathroom. So
we can't talk or say anything to the furries or even look at them, but they can come look at us and they can say stuff to us and touch us. And they don't get in trouble, but we get in trouble.
Interesting. That sounds like a double standard to me.
Yes. Hey, wait.
Okay, you guys stay on the sidewalk, okay?
Tom, help me understand what's happening, because the kids are the protesters against this, and yet the teachers seem to be allowing this. The administrators are allowing. What's happening, Tom?
This is nuts. Brandon, without this book, there's nothing that would make sense right now.
Right.
I mean, this is just insane. So check this out. There was a school not far from where I am.
Okay.
This is 2 years ago. This is how bizarre this thing is.
Yeah.
2 years ago, there was a girl in the classroom. It was like, I think she was like in 4th grade or something like that.
Okay.
And she dressed as a cat. She demanded to be treated like a cat.
Yeah.
The pressure came from her parents. And the school didn't want to, the school district in this case, believe it was a Christian school. They were trying to not allow it, but they were afraid of a lawsuit from the girl's parents. What kind of insane parent
Wow. Yeah.
would actually think this is a good idea? And that was 2 years ago. So you fast forward where we are now.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, and to have school administrators, we get into the whole gender thing. Where's it going to go when you start saying, hey, well, you can cut off your private parts. Hey,
Yeah.
why don't you be a cat? Why don't you be a dog? The stuff is sickening. It's just absolutely sickening. I believe it is spiritual. And I also do believe that Satan is the author of confusion.
Yeah.
And it is creating mass confusion. We're being gaslit by our leaders,
Right.
trying to tell us this is right.
Right.
I mean, how many things have we been told the last few years? Well, this is right, and we know it's a lie.
Right.
This is sickening. I mean, it is just, it makes you want to barf.
Yeah. And Tom, it's one thing if a toddler, 2 or 3 year olds playing like an animal or something. These kids are in junior high going into high school, because I hear teachers here locally say the same thing that's happening in junior high and high school. These kids have, obviously, there's mental problems there, and they're obviously involved in the trans movement, and then they seem to move from the trans movement into this animal stuff. So can you, let me ask you this. Do you think there's this link here, now that they're pushing the kids and grooming kids towards trans, that this is the logical extension of where the trans movement moves when you lose your identity?
Oh, it's yes. And where's it going to go next? Just when we think this can't get any more nuts, we look where it is. So I got to be careful of what I say here, because it's a little bit personal. But somebody who works here in the studio with me, his daughter's in a class, in a college that's local.
Okay.
One of the girls in her class, so she'd be young 20s, right?
Yeah.
So she's an adult.
Okay.
She is in her class, and there's this furry in the class, and the furry said she is, get this, you ready? Transferring. F-U-R-I-N-G. Transferring. So, yeah, I mean, you go, is this really happening? It really is happening. But of course, okay, how much more extreme will it get? So, you go through the gender mutilation,
right?
Which already kids who have gone through that we're reading about many stories where they're devastated because they're starting to grow out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But doctors, it's appalling. Doctors, the people in the schools encouraging it, not telling parents this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what happens next? So as you go down this thing, you start thinking, that's okay. Well, I guess I want to be a cat. I mean, when you're 3 years old, everybody imagines there's something.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
For me, I imagined I was a trash truck driver. Go figure out my great expectations I had. But people, they think they act like animals. They go into those imaginations.
Yeah.
But now they're being told, oh, you think like that because that's what you are. Therefore,
right.
But this is happening with adults. You probably saw that guy a while back. He's in the UK. He dressed like a dog, and he demanded to be treated like a dog.
Oh, yeah,
and
there's a whole movement on that
stuff.
stuff.
Goes outside on a leash, drinks from a dog dish. That guy's probably 30 years old. What?
Yeah.
You know, this might sound bad, but this is a freak show.
Yeah, exactly. So here's my question, I guess. Why are so many adults, Tom, allowing this? I mean, if you're a principal, you're a school administrator, a college professor, what's happened to people? I thought you would get kicked out of class for something like this. What's going on in the educational systems in America?
I think money has a lot to do with it. I went to a school board meeting not too long ago. It was about the gender stuff, not letting parents know. You know how that goes.
I went to one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we know how that goes. Okay. But with that, I found out that the lady who was the president of the school board, or whatever, not the school board, but I guess the union or whatever, she was rep there that night. Her income, it's on public, you can go to a public domain and find their income, $400 and some thousand a year. So, I mean, you start looking at this going, wait a minute. No wonder why, if as long as you continue to push this insane stuff, which is destroying everything within the fabric of our nation, it attacks everything that's biblical.
Yeah.
Listen, this is Marxism, and these people at the top, they know the stuff is evil. When you read back and you start looking at videos of people who came out of the Soviet Union who were defectors, Yuri Bezmenov is one of those.
Yeah.
He says, hey, this is what the intent is. The intent is to demoralize the people. That has been done. You demoralize, you destabilize, you create a crisis, and then you come in and say, and now you normalize. But you start with the demoralization process. So this is really what this is. It's not about them at the top thinking that this is right.
Right.
They know, listen, most of these people at the top, I mean, I'm not talking about the nuts in Hollywood where you see they're transitioning their kids or they're saying it's okay to be a furry. But I'm talking about the people at the top that make decisions. They wouldn't let their kids do this kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, Zuckerberg won't let his kid get on Facebook. Bill Gates won't let his kid have a phone. So they know, these people at the top, they know exactly what's going on, but it is about this Marxist agenda.
Yeah.
And it is destroying America. You throw in TikTok, you throw in all these other things.
Right.
It is demonic. I think of the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 12, where he confronts the religious leaders when they say, hey, you're casting out demons by Beelzebub. Then he goes and he says, hey, listen, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's America. We're divided. And then he said, the thief knows in order to take the house, not only do you have to divide it, but ultimately you have to bind the strong man. And then he can take the house. America has been divided, and now the strong man is being bound by these totally wicked things. We're being demoralized. Yeah, we know there's a spiritual enemy behind this.
Sure.
But there are complicit people that are involved, and that's what this is about. And then you give enough money, you're going to find enough players. There's enough people out there that are willing to look the other way. They don't care about the children. They're willing to destroy their lives. As long as they have a good paycheck, they have a happy life, they're going to go along with it.
Yeah, good point. So what I'm picking up from what you're saying is there seems to be levels of involvement in all of this. So at the top, you have the guys who know this is crazy, right? And they're pushing grooming on kids, basically. But then you have under them like the useful idiots. You have people that are in it for money, and then you have like true believers who are just dumber than a box of rocks and believe anything that the government or whoever tells them. This stratification of this, Tom, I guess my question is, how prolific is it? I mean, is it just in the schools? This stratification, is it in other areas of society? And what can you do about it?
It's infecting everything. And by the way, thinking of people being as dumb as a box of rocks, the people who just go along with it, I think it's you have the statistics. Isn't something like 30% of the people just go along with whatever the government says?
Yeah, it is something like that. They just believe anything that comes out there.
Yeah, I mean, they believe Mr. Ice Cream Man in the White House is a good president. They believe Kamala is a really good vice president. So there's enough people out there that just do this. So speaking of the different ages and different groups it infects, not just schools, there's down the street from me, I don't want to get into a lawsuit over what I say.
Okay.
But down the street from me, there is a company. It's a beauty company. You know, we sell beauty products.
Okay.
It's a very well-known one. The first letter is 4 letters. First letter is a U. The last letter is an A, right?
I got it.
Okay. So check this out. One of the employees there, it's happened with several employees apparently, but one of them quit. The reason she quit is because there was a furry that was a cat. Demanded would only be addressed by if you had to say meow.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it gets worse. This is disgusting. She demanded that a litter box be put in the break room.
There you go.
She used, this is an adult, she used the
Oh,
litter
no.
box.
Are you serious?
I am serious. And
Oh,
why
my
this,
goodness.
I'm guessing the company would be sued by employees because I know normal employees were totally like, this is sickening.
Right.
The company put up with this. So I don't know where they are now. That was a few months ago. But you look at this and go, I mean, when you start working this out, you realize we are dealing with, yes, mental illness. We are dealing with things that are demonic.
Yeah.
I mean, even a mentally ill person can know something's not right about that.
Right. Yeah, and let's go into this vein because it seems there's always this weird evil connection, Tom. And so, like, if you look at these adult furries, okay, and you know this because you've probably seen the articles, dude, there's a whole sexual kink involved with these furries at the adult level. I mean, DeSantis put out a law in Florida because they were having these furry con, I guess they call it, and they meet once a year, like Comic-Con or whatever. Mm-hmm. And DeSantis outlawed kids under 18 to be able to go to this thing because it is highly sexually kinky, just weird sexual stuff. And here's the funny thing, Tom. Why does it always have this component and then it's always geared towards kids? Because whether it's the LGBT or the trans or now it's the furries, it always ends up at the kid level. What's going on with that?
Yeah. It's perversion.
Yeah.
And they go after our kids. So if we think of it from a religious aspect, we know that spiritually, religiously, it was the Catholic Church that said, hey, we've got to get them when they're kids. When they're kids, we've got Catholics for life. In your case of mine, didn't have us for life.
Right.
But nevertheless, that's the concept. There's a lot of people that are watching this that are also raised Catholic. They get that. And the Catholic Church knew that. Hitler knew that. You know?
Right.
It's go after the kids. Well, Satan knows that better than any human institution does. Remember, if we think back, and I know you'll remember this, it was in San Francisco. It was pre-COVID, and there was this group of homosexual men that sang a song. It was about coming after your children.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was like a choir.
Yes, I remember that.
We're coming after your children. And people like us were appalled by it, but we knew this is the reality of wickedness and perversion.
Right.
They got to target kids. We're going to get the next generation. And we're seeing this all over the place. We remember, I mean, I was just reading, it was in 2008, we were pushing back against the marriage between homosexual marriage, saying it was heterosexual marriage. People in California voted in favor of heterosexual marriage. By the way, everybody watching outside of California, the people voted in favor of it. A judge flipped it and said, not so fast, it's not going to happen that way. Interesting. Right. Whatever the people, didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But in that, the progression was as attorneys like ours, yours and mine, were arguing way back then, hey, this is going to turn over to children.
Yeah.
I actually have on video one of the attorneys saying it's going to get into transgenderism. He said this on a video I did with him in 2011.
Wow.
It's going to go into transgenderism and it's going to go to children. He even mentioned bestiality.
Oh, wow.
This stuff is just a step into bestiality is what it is.
Yeah. Good point, Tom.
And so all of it is going, Satan can't get better and better and better, and neither can man.
Yeah.
If the heart of man is deceitful and wicked, then people in and of themselves cannot improve apart from Christ. It's impossible. So people will get worse and worse and worse. And when it comes to any sin, what do? You barring a miracle or God delivering you, you will continue to progress into something else. Sexual sin is the worst in that regards.
Yes.
Once you start down a particular path, you go so far, you go, well, I need something more, I need something more. So when you get into these perversions,
yes,
because that's what they are,
right,
it will get more perverted. So what we are appalled at today, 2 years from now, people will go, remember when it was just this? I mean, now we if we look at just homosexual marriage, for example, we can look at that and go, 10 years ago, how this is horrible. Now people are saying, hey, compared to transgenderism, so homosexual marriage isn't so bad. Then you bring the furries. You start thinking, this stuff's getting so bizarre. I'm not so sure a boy dressing like a girl is such a bad thing. So it is this, it's kind of like the Hegelian dialectic in the spiritual dynamic.
Yeah,
it is
point.
Things that are appalling, and then we're brought along to here. Then they get more appalling, then we're brought along to here. And we're being led down this very evil, wicked path to the point where nobody will be able to even recognize what good is anymore. And that is ultimately what Satan's goal is.
So to that point, check this out. So I want everyone to see this. And the proof of what Tom is saying, guys, this just came out, a UN report. So here it is on my slide. Let me put that up there on the screen for you guys. You guys got that? There it is. This is from lifenews.com. UN report calls for legalizing sex between adults and children. So this is what the article mentioned. A disturbing new report from the United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, UNAIDS, adds to growing concerns about global leaders pushing to normalize pedophilia. The report offers legal guidance on issues related to sex involving children under the age of 18. Without any discussion about what the age of consent should be, the report suggests minors can consent to having sex with an adult. Sexual conduct involving persons below the domestically prescribed minimum age of consent to sex may be consensual in fact, if not in law, the report states. Guys, that's exactly what Tom's talking about. Tom, you hit the nail on the head, because we know that, okay, we started with gay marriage and lesbianism or whatever and transgenderism, and now they're pushing pedophilia. I mean, they don't know any boundaries anymore, apparently.
They know, they know no boundaries. It's interesting. I was reading just an article about Muhammad, and I think it was on Mike Winger's podcast, and he asked, what was the age of his bride? I think
it was like 9, wasn't it, or something?
6 when they got married.
Oh, really? 6?
9 when they had, get this, consensual sex.
Oh my land!
What's that? How many?
Wow!
Centuries ago was that? All right, but that's But this is being promoted as normal.
Yeah.
When you start looking at it, the way Islam is rising, I know that's not what we're talking about. You look at it. People are so warped in their mind, and they are so perverted in their mind that they're actually thinking this is okay. I mean, you and I have both seen things, videos or articles about somebody after they've been arrested for pedophilia, which probably won't happen much longer.
Right.
And the person will say something along the lines of, well, they gave me that look, so I know it was okay. The look of a 5-year-old girl or a 5-year-old boy. Right. And you're going, what kind of perverted person is this?
Yeah.
And now you look, you go, you wonder if people are even going to be arrested for these things anymore. But I cannot help but think what Romans chapter 1 teaches. Yeah. God says, I will give them over to a reprobate mind, to a debased mind. Yeah. I believe, Brandon, that we have been given over to our nation as a whole. Obviously not you and me, our viewers. But if we go back to the days of Judah, not every single person was wicked, yet God judged them. Babylon still came. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. We can read about the minor prophets, the major prophets. We know there were people that were proclaiming the truth and loved the Lord. However, at large, Judah was given over to perversions, killing babies,
Yes.
sacrificing babies, the perverted practices of their neighbors. They went up to the high places and practiced the perverted things. God called them out on it. They had weird temple worship that they started getting into with prostitutes. All different kinds of stuff was going on.
Right.
So it didn't mean every single person was doing it, but that's the same thing here in America. How many people, Brandon, you and we say something like this, and church pastors get upset with it. How can you even talk about this kind of stuff?
I say things like this at conferences, at churches, and I don't get invited back. And I'm like, well, what side are these guys on anymore? And I thought, this is kind of a black and white issue. And apparently, Tom, and maybe you can speak to this, the failure of the churches on almost every issue, whether it's gay marriage, whether now the new thing they're going to have to rail against is pedophilia. Maybe they probably won't say anything now. And then Israel. You and I have talked about this. They will not say anything about Israel. In fact, many of the churches get an anti-Israel stance for some reason. And it seems like the backbone of our society, it's not there, Tom. I don't know how to describe it spiritually, what's happening. Okay, help us out.
Yeah. All right, so I'll be careful what I say here because I don't want you to get, your new ministry to get canceled for a week because of me. So let me be careful here. But if we go back 4 years, you and I are very like-minded.
Yeah.
We kept our churches open.
Yes, we did.
And there are others that, no, the government said this, it's for everybody's good, therefore we're not going to do such a thing. Well, you look at that, and we both knew they had already set themselves down a certain trajectory.
Yeah.
If the government says, don't say this, I won't say it. You already compromised, took money from the government, whatever it is. You've already compromised and gone down that path, the first step, okay? Then, we are already at that place even pre the last 4 years with church pastors unwilling to say anything about homosexual marriage.
Right.
They wouldn't touch it. So, no, we just need to love everyone. Mm-hmm. And if I'm just going to offend them, then they aren't going to come to Christ, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So they had already taken certain steps and to compromise. Now you come to Israel, well, if I say anything, I'm going to get anybody that's of Arab that might want to come to my church, they're going to get really mad at me, so I'm not going to say anything. It's just one thing after another.
Yeah.
And that's what is happening. Hence, we're just going to preach Jesus. Well, what Jesus are you preaching when clearly in Revelation 19, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy?
Amen. Right.
Don't you kind of miss a whole bunch of Jesus when you avoid the prophetic teachings which involve judgment and God's truth-telling?
Right.
Not foretelling, but it's truth-telling to the world. Hey, this is what's going on. And this is where the Old Testament prophets called out the false prophets of their day, because there were a lot more false prophets than there were good prophets.
That's right.
And so they called them out, but they got, like Jeremiah gets thrown into a pit,
Right.
Gets arrested for saying these things against the government, against the judges, against the fake priests and the fake prophets. Man, Brandon, you said something, you've said it a few times in the last year. It was when we were in Mexico last summer, you said you believe the next dividing line will have something to do with Israel. And here we are.
Here we are.
Has it been? Okay. And then since then, I remember when I was at your church for the conference you had, you said, hey, we are finding out just what a minority we really are.
Yeah.
We're finding out smaller and smaller when it comes to the remnant, pastors that are faithful. I'm not saying that there aren't faithful pastors. We both know some.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot.
Yeah, you're right. And that brings me to, this other thing about Israel. And I think what I said a week ago on one of my broadcasts, I think I've started to realize that one of the true north issues is where someone's at on Israel. So obviously, you and I are talking about the perversion of children's minds, and obviously the sexual immorality is a is a true north. If you know where someone stands on on most other issues, if you know what they stand on for sexual immorality, and then Israel is another true north issue. That if they get Israel wrong, then a lot flows from being wrong on that issue, it seems like. And so that's where I want to talk about the issue of Israel, because what's happening in our colleges and universities is blowing me away. I'm really shocked by this. And the new thing that's going on in New York with Columbia University and NYU, again, we're talking about furries, but it's the same mindset, because somebody's perverting the minds of these individuals. And what I want people to see out there on this broadcast is, here's some clips of how crazy these students are. I mean, you're talking about 18 to 21, 22 years old, how out of control they are against Jewish people in the colleges and universities. So here's this video. Watch this, Tom. This is at Columbia University. This is right in the streets of Manhattan, guys.
You're Hamas. Wow. That's a good one. You're what? You're Hamas?
Yes, we're all Hamas, eh? We don't want no Jews state. We don't want no Jews state. We remember 48.
Anyway, I will keep revealing the truth about all of you.
Why are you so close? What up? What up?
People I know who don't even go to Columbia, honestly, a lot of people who are here aren't students. They've stuck in, which I think is completely fine and we accept. I know people who are helping people sneak. I don't know if I should be saying that.
Ready? 7th of October is about to be every day. Every day. 7th of October is going to be every day for you. And wait, you're going to see.
Guys, look at her sign, Al Qassam's next target, referring to unbelievable. This is in the campus of Columbia University, right there.
You don't have a culture, you betray. All you do is colonize. That's it. Who is here first? We were here first.
Let's go. Yes, please. Thank you.
Make sure Johnny and Dave are good. Make sure they're good.
They closed all the other exits.
Is this what happens when they get to you at a young age, and then you go to the college and universities, and you've already lost your mind, and you end up supporting a terror organization like Hamas. My mind is blown. I don't know what to say.
Absolutely. So we've removed critical thinking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we look, so this to me is like a master plan over the past several years. And going back to Yuri Bezmenov, you demoralize, you destabilize, create a crisis. All of these things are taking place. So with that, if we look at what's happened in school since the beginning of COVID, right?
Yeah.
All the bizarre things.
You're right.
And then what they've done, what they did to children in different age groups and so forth, all right? So we saw that. But then you look at the gender stuff, you look at all these, there's so much confusion that young people can no longer think for themselves.
Yeah, good point.
And they were taught not critical thinking. What they've been taught instead of critical thinking is critical race theory, which is exactly the opposite of critical thinking.
Yeah, right.
And so you eliminate that. Now you put them in college, and I found articles that said protesters were being paid as much as $1,400. There's this other article. It says there's an Act Blue fundraiser says contributions will benefit Community Justice Exchange, a project of the Soros-funded Tides Center, and that's specifically regarding I don't even want to say anti-Israel. I'll say the pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, anti-Jew protests that are happening. Soros-funded. So that's just one. How many different branches of these are there? Because these things have to be funded.
Well, you're making a good point because you mentioned earlier about the furry thing, and you have this top bracket of elites, whatever you want to call them, global elites or whatever, who are masterminding a lot of this because someone's going to have to pay for this. Like someone was mentioning, like if you look at the tents at Columbia University and in NYU, these are like $500 tents that they're staying in, okay? And who's paying for them to stay in these tents? Who's paying them to stay out in the lawns? And someone's funding this. And I heard the same thing that you did. And so you have this top echelon, it seems like, and then you have the useful idiots, and the students, I guess, would be the useful idiots. Am I seeing that correctly?
That's the way I see it. That's exactly what they are.
How can you support Hamas? I don't know.
They're being played. They're being manipulated. I mean, you showed the one video where what are you protesting? Well, we don't really know. We're not educated. I mean, well, why are you here? Because we were told to do that, and that's also that age. I remember being at that age.
Sure.
That's the age where it's kind of trendy to just protest.
You're right.
Right. And so, I mean, and it's happened generation after generation. In this case, it keeps getting worse and more bizarre. And in this case, we know that anti-Semitism in the last days is going to rise to the top.
Yes.
You will have the three things that are a definite sign of the last days are anti-Israel, the land, anti the nation of Israel, anti-Jewish people. Well, guess what we have happening right now? It is not just the land and the nation itself. It is the Jewish people, and it's going to be a surprise to people on the left. If you're a Jew on the left, you're going to be hated too.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so let's bring it to the prophetic scenario then. What hope does the West have? For instance, a lot of Christians are getting into this Christian nationalism, Tom, and they are saying, well, we can turn it all around in the next election. Speak to that. Can we just turn everything around, Tom, by just say, for instance, Trump gets in there? Could we turn the colleges and universities around? Could we turn the public schools around? Or whatever issue it is? Is it just that easy, or are we gone? Are we too far?
It's not that easy. And I was at a meeting recently with Alex Newman.
Okay.
And he just said, the problem is people say we get rid of the Department of Education. He said, Department of Education isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So what you really have is you're going to be in your cities, you're going to be in school boards, standing up for righteousness. And if anybody thinks that the next election will fix everything, all we have to look at is the current Speaker of the House and think, how did that go? You
right.
know?
Good point. Excellent point.
Yeah, so you have this nationalistic, the NAR movement that is within churches that says, we are going to fix this world, and then after we fix it and make it wonderful, then Jesus will come back. Well, that isn't what the Bible teaches at all.
Right.
Jesus teaches you can't fix this world. I am coming back, hence the 70th week of Daniel. The Bible's very clear. Jesus is going to be the one to come back and fix it. He's the judge.
Right.
So what's he going to? He's going to come back. He's going to judge all this evil. And I'm thinking when people say they're going to fix it, this is what has caused many church-going people to say, let's just go along with the government because let's just do what they told us 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's get the this. We
Right.
need to show everybody that we love them, and we're going to do this group hug into saving the whole world because they're going to realize how genuine our Christian love is. No, what they're going to realize is what a fool you were for going along with these insane policies,
Right.
and you're as much of a useful idiot as these kids on college campuses. And I will guarantee you, some of these kids on campuses have been connected with a church in the past.
Sure.
Some probably are connected with these churches that are very trendy right now, where the pastor doesn't have the guts to stand up for Israel, probably because he doesn't really believe most of what the Bible says, but he found himself a job because
Yeah.
he's a hireling,
Right.
and he goes out there and preaches, gets a paycheck, keeps the pews full, and keeps the kids happy, and that's the direction it's going. So
Yeah.
when we see this, no, we are not going to fix it. The next election, listen, I am a person that believes I should vote. I'm
Sure.
a person that believes I should be involved. But if I think the next election is going to fix the world, that's insanity. The only one that's going to fix this place is Jesus.
Amen.
And he is the Savior I look to. I will vote for righteousness. I will move forward. But there's no way I'm trusting in a man thinking he's going to fix the world. That's what's going to get the world in the very near future into a bind with Antichrist, because he's going to come along and say, I got the answers. And people on the right and left are going to say, finally.
Yeah, good point. So, Tom, speak to this, and we got to wrap things up because I've taken you too much time from you, man. We see the prophetic scenario, and someone's out there listening saying, you guys are telling me the whole world's collapsing. And it is in a lot of ways. So what can I do? I mean, if you're a believer, what can a believer do? If this thing is going in a direction that can't stop, the train has already left the station. What can I do as a believer, even though I know, like, the education is not going to be fixed. The political realm is not going to be fixed. The economic realm is not going to be fixed. What do I do? Do I put on the white sheet? Do I wait on the rooftop? What do I do?
Well, absolutely not. Don't put on the white sheet. That's what we don't do that. What are we supposed to do? Occupy until he comes.
Amen.
And we are supposed to be salt and light. And it's very interesting. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the restrainer is going to be removed. We believe that we are the Holy Spirit working through us is restraining evil. Well, if we're not involved, then we're not exactly being part of the restraining force of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
We're just sitting there saying, I'm just going to let it go to hell in a handbasket. No.
Right.
We want to be found faithful. In the
Amen.
Christian race, the Apostle Paul likened our life to running a race. And when you see, the Olympics are coming this summer, you see the runners, they're in a long-distance run, they're coming around the last turn, they see the finish line. Every single one of them, even the guy that knows he's going to lose, he is running as hard and fast as he can. His coach is going to kill him if he doesn't, but he's running as hard and fast as he can because he sees the finish line.
Amen.
That is what we are supposed to do. Even if we know, listen, we're not going to get first place.
Yeah.
We still see the finish line. Our coach is the King of Kings.
Amen.
And we're going to say, I am here to please him. So I see the finish line. I will run as hard and fast as I can. I'm not just going to pull up a chair and say, you guys just run past me. There's the finish line. I'm just going to wait for the finish line to come to me. Or I'm just going to wait and be on one of those things you go through the airport, the walking sidewalks and catch up. No, I'm going to run as hard as fast as we can. That's what we're supposed to do. I will be involved in school board meetings. I will be involved in helping whoever I can to proclaim the gospel. I'll come alongside pastors if they're willing to say, hey, I would love to have a little bit of help from you. Give me 5 minutes, give me 3 days, whatever it is. I'll do what I can. The reason why you and I do this together, because we link arms. Everybody, we gotta link arms. And Pastor Brandon has become such a great friend and brother that we both are running this race, and we do not kick back and wait. And we want to be we want to be faithful in the restraining movement of the Holy Spirit, doing righteousness wherever we can, bringing in His righteousness, and we got to tell people about Jesus.
Amen.
We've got to tell them. And I love what you do. You say, hey, you're meeting with people, you're setting up different dynamics where people can say, hey, if I need these goods, if I need those goods, listen, if we're not raptured, we need to be thinking now, who are friends we can trust?
Good point.
Who are people that we can get goods from? There's different dynamics, but we've got to be about our Father's business. And I would right now build up faithful friends, because I believe we're going to need them in the near future if we're not raptured soon. And this election is coming, and only God knows exactly how that thing's going to turn out.
It is going to, who knows, man? But you're right. It doesn't dissuade us from our call and our duty, obviously. And so, guys, Tom had good words right there, wise words. And I think we need to finish our race, our individual race. And the author and finisher of Christ is at the end of that line waiting for us. So, Tom, thank you so much, man. Great word, great wisdom. You hit the nail on the head. And I hope everyone understands that this is satanic, what's going on. This is big, man, and this is obviously setting up the end times as we know. But thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy. We always appreciate you, Tom. Keep doing a great job out there, man.
Thank you, Pastor Brennan. Look forward to talking to you real soon.
Okay, brother. Take care.
Bye.
All right, guys. Again, catch us next week as we interview some of the top speakers in the nation, and we get their perspective from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective. So anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.